don't know that good. Yeah. Yo, if I were podcasting, it would be insane. Knowledge flowing like the sweetest rain. Professor Bear on the mic, spreading wisdom wide. Of best thoughts, that's my pride, can't hide.
With the voices in your ear, changing the game.
If I rule podcasting, every thought we'd ignite. In a world of chatter, we'll spark in the fight. With Professor Bear, we're climbing to new heights. A best thoughts podcast, shining bright in the night. Topics from the heart, never sounding the same. Got laughs and debates, never dull or bland. From culture to tech, take you by the hand. Join the ride with us, feel the vibe expand. With every episode, we shine that
beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul.
So tune in, don't miss what we got to share. If I rule podcasting, I spread the love everywhere.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me this evening. I am Professor Bear, and this is a Bear's Thought. And the thought that I have tonight is I've been very blown away by how much fun I've had with talking to so many different people. I've gotten a chance to talk to some good friends, talk to family members in the WSN. I've gotten to talk to guys and girls that helped me when I first started and wanted to give them, show them some love by bringing them on and acknowledging how much they played a part in me becoming the podcaster that I am. And with that being said, this gentleman here, he was one of the early people that gave me a chance to talk about WSN. Me and him get to meet and have fun on the Joe Monroe show a lot. I have a lot of respect for him. This is my friend Rob from Confusion Wrestling. Rob, how you doing tonight, sir?
It's cold up in this part of the woods, but apart from that, I can't complain. It's good to be able to talk to you again. It's been, I don't know if we've done anything since like around Thanksgiving, because Joe got that break in December, so it's been a bit.
Yeah, man. Again, and I've never told you this, but I really had appreciate that you had me on the show. You didn't know anything about me, and you gave me a chance to plug WSN. And again, that really meant a lot to me. I've kept that in the back of my head. I always try to be very thankful and humble for everybody who gave me a chance to do that. And man, I know you're super knowledgeable. You're funny as hell, and I just wanted to tell you thank you for that.
You were quite welcome. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like when you first messaged me, I vetted you as best as I could, and then on top of it, like I don't think I've ever told you this before, but you came like right at like a horrible time in my personal life, so that kind of put things on the back burner, because like just before you messaged me originally to reach out, my mother had passed away.
Oh
So
shit!
I was in a funk with that. I was still podcasted because that like wrestling has always been there for me in one way, shape,
Right.
or form. And the podcast is, and we can maybe touch on this later, whatever. Has been a great way to just pour emotion into it. And then like right after that, I assume it's because of my immune system being wonky due to the depression that followed it. But then right after that, I got shingles.
Oh
Too.
damn!
Luckily, I knock on wood, it was very mild, but I was doing the bare minimum of keeping everything together just because of the depression, and then just like the itchy and nerve pain of it all. But that being said, it was great having you on. Like I don't know what my expectations were coming into it, but like we should have done like a two-parter, or I could have just kept you there all night, because like once you're telling stories about your youth and all the people you got to hang out with, like I could have just talked about that all night. And then oh by the way, the Wrestling Society Network is just starting up. Maybe I should check it out. But the important thing is he didn't get his ass kicked by Big Cat or anything like that.
Oh man! And I keep trying to keep in my head where I told the stories and who I've told them to, because I hate to be like, hey, I got this great story. Well, you already told me that. Oh, sorry.
Just tell it anyway. That's what I do.
So we got to start off with the question that I always ask everybody. How did you become a wrestling fan?
Wrestling has always been a part of my life since I could remember. Growing up, being very little, the two things I remember media wise was professional wrestling, Scooby-Doo, three things: professional wrestling, Scooby-Doo, and the Muppets. And like if dad was in charge of putting toddler me, like 3-year-old me, to sleep, like it basically was just sit and watch TV until one of us passed out. I mean, it's usually me because I was tiny.
Right.
Like so I would fall asleep to usually WWF television, whether it was, I guess it had been primetime wrestling back then.
Yeah.
And like that's what I'd fall asleep to, like on Mondays, if dad was the one in charge of putting me to bed. So it was kind of always there, and it stayed there. And like even as like I became conscious, like I could choose kind of sort of what I wanted to watch, like I continued to watch wrestling, whether it was like all American wrestling on Sundays, prime time, which would eventually become Monday Night Raw, 605 WCW Saturday night. Like those were like the three staples of my childhood television experience, and it is stayed there. And then to a lesser extent it has snowballed because I didn't go to wrestling back then, and now I am going to wrestling. Like this month alone, like I'm traveling the state basically. I'm going to like 3 events, which is big for me because I'm either A, lazy, B, too slow to get certain tickets at certain places, or like especially right now with the weather, like with the winter weather, like it's insane. So we'll see if next week actually happens.
Right.
But and then of course the podcast, which I have so many stories about like the cool folks I've met through podcasting, and the doors that I never thought that would be opened just because of the podcasting and like who I've had on, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, heck, it got me on this show for crying out loud. So doing something right.
Right. So how did you transform from just being a wrestling fan to being the Uber podcaster that you
are? The pig mask was once, and you guys wanted to see what was in the milk crate. Actually, I do have the pig mask. Maybe we'll break it out as the finale. But I was looking for something extra to do. I was looking to maybe a transition. We'll call it transition, because like I am like the real only Uber wrestling fan in my circle. Like some of my friends are like wrestling, but they're just content to watch it once a week, maybe talk about some of the big news like that, and they only want to talk like WWE, maybe some AEW. And Crawl spaces. That's where the dates are. Yeah. So I just like podcasting was starting to become a thing where like pretty much any idiot with a microphone can do. Like you could like the OG podcast like actually started as like a Patreon podcast behind locked doors for I don't know why I had a Patreon because no one really knew who I was back then. I don't know thought like I'm a creative guy. So I can have a Patreon, right? And because I've done stupid like stuff, whether it was via videos, or my lawyer says I can't talk anymore about this. Whether it was like YouTube videos, been in various bands off and on, just like whatever. So I set up a Patreon and it was just kind of something to like funnel, like basically let me rant about wrestling into the void without bothering the people around me.
Right.
And then I found out like, oh, you can actually host a podcast instead of just like posting it like a song. You could actually like put it and hosting sites will put your podcast everywhere. So like I'm like, oh, and like how much extra work do I have to do for this? Not a whole lot of extra work than I was already doing before. Like I basically just hit upload on a different website than on Patreon. Okay, cool. Sounds great. But then I'm like, oh crap, now I need like things like logos and maybe like theme music and whatever. So it did be a little bit more work in the long runs, but like I think it turned out. But yeah, like so basically just started as just another avenue for me just to talk wrestling, even if it was just ultimately like me talking into the void, being another guy with the neck beard and opinion.
So with that being said, and of course I do not want you to mention names, but tell me about your worst podcast, because we had talked about this all before we started, but I know there had to be something even worse than what you told me about.
I don't know if I've really had one that I consider like worse than what we referenced before the air. Like I have been fortunate for the most part that people have been very cool and grateful to come on the podcast. And even the ones that maybe weren't so grateful, like they were at least cool enough to be on, like, oh yeah, well, it's another way to promote myself.
Right.
So like I consider my worst, and no, I try not to bury people too much that I might need in the future. So yeah, no names, but like I had one gentleman who's actually now has a fancy contract despite being on the indies. I'll narrow it that far anyway. Interviewing him was like pulling teeth, and Lord knows, like I can talk all day long if I'm allowed to, but I wasn't getting anything but just the answer to the question about him. Like I only got two like discussion pieces out of him, and one was barely discussion. We talked about an early gimmick that was a joke gimmick given to him by I'll name this name because I'm not burying him necessarily, and it's very him. Filthy Tom Lawler gave this individual like a one-off gimmick, and evidently Tom had been stewing on this gimmick for like years and was just looking for the right person to come along to play a hillbilly. Found him, and like so we got to talk a little bit like that. And he also worked Microman, and which became like the most interesting part of the podcast because the dude's a huge dude, and then he had to do all the Microman spots. So we kind of talked about like how that went about and how interesting that was. But like outside of that, like the interview itself was like 20 minutes, which like my only pods that are 20 minutes are just me rattling on incoherently. When I have guests, like they don't go 20 minutes.
It's so funny that you say that, because I was just sitting here thinking, I'm like, yeah, I've had some 20-minute, and it's ended up because either guest canceled or we had technical difficulties, and I had to, it's like just talking. I'm sitting there talking. I'm like, man, I'm bored. I'm boring myself. So I can imagine what the people who actually sit around and listen to what they were thinking. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop this so we all can be okay.
Yeah, and like there's another recent one that I like, fairly recent, that I'm not proud of, but that's all I'm excited. I made the executive decision to do the interview sick, and so like I wasn't bringing my A game, and I'm also not gonna lie, like I do, like pulling back the curtain a little bit, like I don't bring on talent that I know well necessarily. Like, so I sometimes I see a cool Instagram post or a Facebook post or whatever social media post and say like, that's a neat look. That's a neat gimmick. And I just shoot out a message and like they respond and I'm like, oh no, now I have to do real research. And sometimes it's kind of hard to do research on a person who doesn't have who's just either starting out their career or doesn't have much name value yet, so they've only worked like a handful of places and none of them have like a real presence. And so like the combination of being ill and then just we'll call it being ill prepared for it, which I'll take blame for that, but like just didn't like we still managed but we still managed to go more than 20 minutes, so I'll throw that out there. They were at least willing to talk. I was just blanking on making this a full conversation and not just 20 questions with that individual.
I love when I have conversations with people and I look up and it's later than I thought. That means the conversation was good. I actually got deep into it where I lost a track of time. Those are some of my best things, interviews. If you looking at everything you have done, who would you say was your biggest guest?
Ooh, that is biggest guest was a toss-up between Joe Dombrowski, who's arguably like number 1 or number 2 like independent wrestling commentary team member. Like the dude's everywhere nowadays. It was really cool to have him on. And then Devin Storm / Crowbar came on the podcast, and that was like my first real like nerd out interview, because I'm just like I really liked Crowbar in WCW like when I was coming, because like that was the era I hit my stride. I was late teens during the Attitude Era, and I was always kind of a hardcore fascinated guy to begin with, and then I also liked people who were like their gimmick was that they're crazy. So I was like a big Crowbar fan, and we'd exchanged like tweets back and forth a little bit. Like I'd ask rhetorical questions without tagging him, and he would just search his name or like a vanity search, and he'd see it and he'd answer it earnestly. And like finally I just like, if he's willing to converse with me on Twitter, like what's the harm of sending an email out? Once I found out his email's right there, and he answered. And like it took forever because dude's still got his physical therapy practice in addition to wrestling almost every weekend, or at least when he wants to wrestle every weekend. But we got it done, and that's one of those like little things that blew my mind. It was like not that I thought I was anyone then, not that I'm anyone now, but like I'm definitely bigger now than I was when I had Crowbar on.
Right.
And just for him to be willing to do that.
With that being said, what makes your podcast different than all these other ones out there?
For me, I think what sets Confusion apart from most podcasts is that we exclusively cover the independent scene. Most podcasts come in two forms. They do interviews, which that's fair. I do interviews too, but a lot of podcasts, along with those interviews, like to cover the major leagues. They like to cover their WWEs, their TNAs, their AEWs. And I have chosen, for better or for worse, to eschew all that. Like, we are just uplifting the independents, because without the independents, there is no WWE. Okay, there's WWE. They'll just snatch, college football players and gymnasts. But for functionally speaking, there is no professional wrestling without the independents, regardless of the level of independence out there. And these people are out there putting their bodies on the line and have like really interesting stories to tell in the process, because sometimes just the fact getting into the wrestling business alone is a ride in and of itself, and not even counting like anything you've done in the business as well. So like I definitely like really try do as cool as getting Crowbar on or Joe Dombrowski on. I am just as proud of getting your Oliver Keynes. Well, who I mean, okay, he's an Illinois legend at this point, but like not a lot of people know who he is. Like
Right.
but I'm proud of getting those Oliver Keynes on. I am proud of giving a spotlight to your All Go Nellies or your Doom Montgomerys who either are just starting their career or just not, or just needing that extra kind of push to get the eyes on them. Or as Fox Vineyard, who I said, he's just trying to get the right eyes on the product. So like I think my dedication to independent wrestling in general and willing to dig in there and nab people from all over the country who are not well known kind of separates me from everybody else.
With that being said, do you find that doing the indie wrestlers and commentary, do you find it refreshing to be able to give people spotlights that necessarily wouldn't get?
I think it's well, it's a professional accomplishment to begin with, just to be able to like give the rub to somebody else, especially like if for some odd reason I have more followers than they do, which that blows my mind that's a thing. But I think again, like how much of independent wrestling is just based on based on word of mouth. You only know people because somebody said something about it, whether it's your friend, somebody shared something on social media. So many folks are just waiting, just to get that eye on them. And if I can do that and make the business a little bit better, or make that give that person a little bit more of a rub, an extra booking, or an extra 8x10, or like I've gotten people indirectly booked on other podcasts just because they listened to mine and went like, hey, they're in my wheelhouse. They had a good interview with you, Rob. Like I totally I want to get them on in the future. And like if someone asks like, hey, I'm looking for guests, do you have a recommendation? Like I'll throw out their names, because like I know he just retired, but like David Lawless, the Gavel, name drop him, but he's like, I'll do any podcast that is willing to reach out to me. And so I'm like, hey, like I sent out a couple of messages like, hey, if you are needing guests, David Lawless will do your podcast. And and I've shot various names out there, but just the fact that I'm like helping out, like gives me that warm fuzzy feeling, rather than just like, whereas like if I was just if it was just me without the podcast, it would just be me paying $10-20 at the gate at one of the locals. I wouldn't be able to help out, say, Enjoy Wrestling or Power Pro Lucha Libre, or a Full Queer Wrestling out in California. Like I wouldn't be able to help out near as much without the podcast.
It's amazing because I think we have a very similar mind state of our responsibilities. And for me, I had to learn how valuable I am in other people's eyes, because like you, I'm like, hell, who am I? I'm just a guy with a podcast. But other people look like, no, you're more than that. You do a lot of good work, and you big up the indies. You have people. So it took me a while to figure out, like, well, shit, I am important.
You're a Hall of Famer, Bear.
Yes, and see, and stuff like that is like, it's still mind blowing. It's like, oh God, I remember the conversation me and Joe had. It was like, man, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not being disrespectful to the business. I'm not taking a spot from somebody who really deserves it. And finally, he was like, you're doing it. Don't make me put you in the headlock. And I was like, okay, I got you. But it's so amazing especially when you hear from wrestlers how much they respect you and appreciate what you do, because it really does help them more than I think we knew originally. Now we understand it, and we're definitely more we're more thankful and try to make sure that we're doing the right thing by different people and companies. Um, when you when you're looking, is there any particular thing that stands out for you that, like, okay, I got to get them?
I mean, in the business or in the rest of it, listen to me talk like if I'm behind the scenes of the wrestling
I
business.
know, right?
I have not. The only time I've publicly said the only time I've stepped in a wrestling ring is to take a picture with Big Van Vader back in like 2011 or something. But shoot, where was I go with this?
You were going to talk about behind the scenes.
But just I get seeing people in general, whether it's going to these indie shows, I watch a lot of IWTV. I will yes, there's some promotions I like to watch, but if we're bored in the house, sometimes we do, we just play roulette and we'll see whatever's on the front page of the app. We will just click on that, and like last week I watched some French Canadian wrestling, and thank goodness there was English commentary. But to circle back to the actual question in terms of what brings it to my eye, and before I brain farted on that, never mind that. In the wrestling business, they talk about having it. And it is this intangibility. If you want to call it like charisma or physical charisma, it can be that. But there's just something that draws you to a person. The folks I bring on in some way, shape, or form kind of have it. Like, yes, but this it sometimes comes into more gimmick work. If they're local-ish or local, especially if they're local or local adjacent. Like if I catch them like with their crowd work being on point, whether it's in the match itself or during the entrance, like I gotta have some of that. Or sometimes I just see a gimmick and go like, that is fun. I want to talk to them, and then I just hope for the best. And then like other times, like I'm not gonna lie, like I overshoot and get some like quasi names on here or bigger names just because like I've been a fan of their work, and I'm just like, screw it. Like the worst they can do is ignore me or tell me no. Most people don't tell me no, they just ignore me, which is probably the best way to deal with me, not gonna lie, because I crave attention. That's why I'm a podcaster. That's why I have a neck beard and a microphone, and according to Tanner's, a pig mask, but that's neither here nor there. But like so like sometimes I'm just like, Landon Hale is killing it right now. He's going up and down the country. Like, I wonder if he'll do a podcast. Or the past week, I had Auguste Artois, who's now wrestling in Thailand, but like he's the longest reigning Full Impact Pro heavyweight champion, a belt that goes back that used to be the sister promotion to Ring of Honor.
Right.
Like, he's a world, like, or as he puts it, an international draw now. And so I'm just like, whatever, I'll shoot my shot. The worst they can do is just tell me no. And people are cool, and they either just completely ghost me, or they like, yeah, let's work something out. So like I literally, though, a lot of it's just keeping my eyes and ears open on like who's on shows, whether it's podcasts or wrestling events, social media, who's sharing who on social media. I had two recent guests. This week's guest dropped today, Doom Montgomery, cheap plug. Like I found him because two of my recent guests had either wrestled or teamed with him recently and were sharing his videos on Instagram. And I like, Axel Riekel's sharing this. I should see what's going on. And I'm like, this dude's cool. Again, let's shoot him a message, see what happens. So, now this week I have a guy, speaking of Tan's comments of FBI hostages and whatnot, I got a guy who might be an axe murderer on the show this week. So, things are cool. You just keep your eyes open, and wrestling is wonderful like that.
With that being said, and I've done this so much, but guys, girls, if you watched any of my stuff this month, you know the QR code. If you haven't, the QR code is a code to Rob's YouTube page. So please, please, please check it out and watch some of his great stuff. It's going to be great. Definitely take the time to look at it, please. When you it's so funny how we are similar in what we do with our interviews and different people. I think I kind of spazzed out this week because I had some people not said they were going to be on the show, then I couldn't get them, and I had to rant about it before I calmed down and really looked at the big picture. How do you deal with that they ghost you, or they say they're going to be on your show and then don't talk to you? How do you deal with things like that?
For the most part, I'm not going to lie. As long as they don't ghost the interview itself, I really hold no ill will. Like, not okay. I don't say I want to hold anyone ill will, but I don't think negatively of people just not answering the emails or the DMs, or the folks that'll be like, "Yeah, sounds great, let's do this," and then after that disappear. Like, I consider that to just be kind of life in general, just because we're all busy. Let's be realistic. A lot of the wrestlers, especially the ones that like at the level that I'm interviewing, like they have real jobs. They have wrestling, a real job, and odds say some sort of family life. Like donating time to just a rando with a microphone like may not be high on their agenda, or let's also be realistic. Like, I'm dealing with people who get hit in the head for a living. Like, they might have been like, yeah, let's do this, put the email away, and then just lost it. I'll throw him under the bus for it because I've done it on air before. Marion Fontaine came on the show. He answered my email 6 months after I originally sent it. Like, I filed it away, just like, okay, cool. Like, he's got other stuff going on, or he doesn't do podcasts, or whatever. And then just like, I get an email one day and it's like, I'm really sorry, I put your email in a pile that I was going to get back to, and I never did. So if you hate me, that's fair, but yes, I would like to come on your podcast. And I'm like, nope, you're good, man. But to go to like, how do I deal with the frustration? Like, I only get really kind of annoyed with the folks where I set up the interview and then they no show me. And for the most part, like, yeah, I'm not happy with that, because like, I got a home life too. And like, that's time I could be spent doing literally anything else. Instead, like, I have to set up my, I don't have a dedicated studio, so I have to like set up my mic. I gotta set up my computer. Got to get the camera ready. I gotta do XYZ to get ready. And then like, I gotta wait for you, and then I'm a sucker, and I know people aren't like me who aren't going to show up 15 minutes early. Like, so I'm gonna wait till time when they should show up. Then I wait like another 15 minutes for them to show up. And then like, I got to write the nasty email of like, okay, it's not nasty. It's just like, hey, I thought we had this scheduled, let me know and we can reschedule. And, and then after that, I just go vent. I vent to anyone, anyone. Like, I have not buried anyone on air about this. I am sometimes professional, but the Wizard CZ, our frenemy of the show, he gets a brunt of it just because he's had similar experiences as well. So just like, I can't believe so and so ghosted me, and then usually his response was, "That sucks, but who is that?" But yeah, so I vent a lot about it, and then I'm petty, and if I was following them on social media at all, I unfollow them, and except for the one that then slid into my DMs to critique my podcast after he ghosted me. that one I shan't name.
It's funny because with the venting, I'm like, I'm gonna go on air. I'm just gonna air them out. This, that, the other. I'm gonna do this, and then I finally calmed down. Like, okay, that's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my energy. And again, like you said, we don't know what they have going on, and I'm very understanding of that. But my philosophy is just be professional. I had one person. We set this up like probably 3 months in advance, and every blue moon I would reach out, hey, we're still good, and they're like, yes. Then the day of, like probably 2 hours before we supposed to go on, I was like, hey, I'm gonna send you a link at whatever time. They were like, no, I don't think this is good for me. And I'm like, wow, you wait until this point when you could have said this a while ago. And again, maybe I wasn't their cup of tea, and I'm okay with that. But it's just so unprofessional. And I think you can be whatever you are, but just be professional. If you don't want to do it, or even, hey, I want to see what you do before I agree to come on your show. Understandable, right? Cool.
That's not a problem for me because I have a super professional email with the links. If you don't know what I'm about by the time the show comes on, that's your problem. I mean, granted, like this doesn't help me when they do, if that's their excuse, but
right. But yeah, I try to be, again, understanding, but it's like, man, you wouldn't do it, but I could have got 2 or 3 other people that I know would have did it, and at this time, you just wasted my time. I can't get my time back. That's what ticks me off.
Yeah, and I try, like, hindsight always being 2020, and like sometimes I try to pretend I'm a good person because it makes up for other facets of my life where I'm not a great person. I try to look at it like, it doesn't do me any good to be upset long term, because yes, it wasted some time. Luckily, not that much time in theory overall. But like, also, like, what good is it for me to go like actively bury someone, like especially like on the podcast? Like, yeah, they're unless they're Manders I will bury all day and night long. So before anyone tries to call me out on the hypocrisy of that, yes, I'm fully aware of the hypocrisy of that, but the one called Manders is a menace and everyone needs to know it. But as a whole, like, I try not to, when I do critique, I try to critique to let things better, or like to make the industry better, give critiques about the work itself, like I try, but it doesn't do me any good to bury specific people necessarily, because it just makes me seem bitter, especially in a field, a profession where anytime someone sees you could be the first time they see you. I don't think it's always the best for the first time someone seeing me to be like, oh, so and so is really unprofessional, and just tearing someone apart. Like, I hate it when like other podcasters do it, regardless of like their quote unquote name value, which is one of the reasons why like I don't listen to certain major podcasters or radio. I guess it's technically a radio station as well, but like it doesn't do anybody good to tear someone down, especially kind of like yes, it could be indicative of other things, but like I'm not paying them. So like the impetus for them to like hop on my show is, not high, so it's not like they're skipping out on bookings that might actually pay them. Like
Right.
it's a podcast that, like, yes, I may have a small loyal following, but like as a whole, like I'm not out there raking millions of views or anything of the like. Like there's a good, actually, depending on who they are, there's a good chance that like it might benefit me more than them for them to come on my show, and I'm
Right.
fully cognizant about it. But I also, again, like I don't, I think I'm better served trying to lift the community, wrestling community as a whole, and being bitter because someone ghosted me and then using my platform to bury them, like regardless of how warranted it may have seemed, is not a good use. Because like, again, like I don't like listening to people be super negative about the product. Like why would I expect someone else to be like, oh, this is a great podcast, he's complaining about people? Like, oh yay, that's because people aren't complaining enough online nowadays.
Right. Um, with today's product, how do you feel that the indie um, community is doing as a whole?
I I think I like this is kind of an interesting question about it, because with the internet, it can be very much an echo chamber of such. And so like and it's really hard to find, I think, as a whole, like an actual independent wrestling community within the online. Like it's not centralized. It's not, there's not like a great hub. Like, yes, we can be like, oh yeah, we can come onto the Wrestling Society network and like do some light discussion there. But like a lot of independent talk is just like lone individuals who are fans talking about what's out there. And I like, honestly, like I would like to see more of it, and maybe that's just because I don't curate my timeline well enough. But like there are, like, it is refreshing to see the people like actively talk about the independent wrestling scene, and I kind of wish more would do it. And I wish people would talk about more like their local indie scenes as well. Like if I could make a critique of it, because a lot of the like independent talk I see usually either comes from, hey, we're going to talk to like we'll call it the larger indies. So whether it's like we're going to talk about like GCW or whatnot, or we're talking about the indies because we want to see so and so be signed by AEW, WWE, TNA, or even like travel to Japan or something of the like. A lot of independent talk is more like fantasy booking than it is like promoting. And again, like focusing on the big boys, I would love to see more folk just being like, oh, Dreamwave Wrestling is killing it. Like next month they're bringing in so and so and so and so, plus like Connor Hopkins is always killing it over there, or whatever your local indie happens to be. Whether, like in my case, it's usually SCW Pro, but like I gotta, within an hour there's at least like 6 other independent wrestling companies out there. Like I would like to see more talk of that. But like I do think, at least what I do see about like the community as a whole, like I do think it's a lot less toxic than because there isn't that tribalism necessarily between like WWE and AEW fans, the fed pilled folk and the sickos. Like there's a lot of toxicity on both sides in those, and I don't like. Yes, wrestling fans are the worst people in the world next to comic book fans, but like I feel like the people who just talk about the indies seem to be a touch more well adjusted in terms of like their social media output than some other wrestling folk.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, because I think we understand there's so many different ones out there that you can find something that fits your style of wrestling, and and that's, I think, why I love the indie so much, is because no matter what style of wrestling that you like, you can find it on the indies. No, if you're a
Yeah.
big hardcore fan, there's a bunch of hardcore indie promotions. If you're like me, a traditionalist, there's a ton of them. So it's so many. Plus, with the internet, you can watch it anywhere. You can watch I live in Tennessee. I watch California, Oregon. Hell, I'm over in New Zealand and just all over the place. So that's where I feel like the indies are sitting in such a better place, because just because you're local doesn't mean you can't aim worldwide.
Oh, it now is arguably the best time to be a wrestling fan, exactly because of that. If like, there's enough streaming services as a whole that you can create your own version of professional wrestling cable. We got with the Wrestling Society Network doing our news coverages and support of independent wrestling through the site. Triller TV kills it with the independent wrestling scene as well, with some really cool, I mean, that's your home for GCW, etc., but Pro Wrestling Revolver's over there, plus a bunch of smaller independents. I'm a huge proponent of independent wrestling television, which has hundreds, like if not thousands of promotions, current and like classic, because actually this household's a big Chikara household. And so we are currently doing a deep dive, personal deep dive. We're not like reviewing it and throwing it online. Like we just, we're bored on a Wednesday. Let's fire up IWTV and let's see where we left off in Chikara. And, like we do that. Whereas like, but we're also, we can also find, your Power Pro Lucha Libres, your IHB No Holds Barred, the Chain Ropes promotion out east. I'm blanking on the proper name of it now. And then of course like YouTube, but though YouTube it's a little bit harder to search because search bars are inherently kind of wonky to begin with, and like last thing is like 8 other things are called like WTF wrestling or just WTF out there. Now you just got like rando things out there, but still like a lot of companies have YouTube based programming, or are at least willing to throw up matches on YouTube, whether it's the wrestlers themselves or the promotion. But yeah, you're right, there's just so much wrestling out there, for whatever your tastes are, because again, like we have Lucha Libre promotions in the US to begin with. So like if you're local, like we got Galley Lucha Libre, there's at least 1 or 2 in Colorado that are blinking on. There's a lot of like what people like, a lot of promotions that proudly call themselves old school or traditional based wrestling, and we got like the hybrids of it, everything in between, because CZW is still a thing and they're still doing death matches. Obviously GCW's still doing the death matches. Primo's Wrestling in Colorado also does a lot of deathmatch stuff. Like, but there's just there's something, if you are willing to put in the work, there's something for you out there. And that's one like my little pet peeves about people who are like saying like, oh, if such and such company went out of business, I would stop being a wrestling fan. And like, maybe this is me being a gatekeeper, but I'm like, were you ever a wrestling fan before? If a company, like, don't get me wrong, like certain things happening will definitely damper my spirit as a wrestling fan, but like wrestling ebbs and flows all the time. And we have seen through the decades that companies will come and go. Like, but if you are a wrestling fan, you can, especially right now with all the streaming on your fingertips, if you really liked wrestling, you could find, you could find something, and I don't know how to like actually bookend how awesome it could be just to have the world of wrestling at your fingertips. And then on top of it, we got all, if you are looking for analysis of wrestling in its various forms, I mean, there are thousands of podcasters to choose from, whether they were former wrestlers, former WWE guys, Dave Meltzer, or or even like smaller folks like yourself and me. There's even more wrestling content to consume, because you can now get the backstage stories from various folk, and besides what you get to see in the ring, it's just so much out there. Like, it's impossible to consume it all, and that's wonderful and terrifying at the same time.
Yes, definitely. Some days, sometimes I have to do my wrestling, my clinic of just no wrestling. Give me a day, I can't do it. Then I come back refreshed and just ready to dive back in it. For you, what is the biggest take of what you do as far as what you are most proud of?
I think for confusion, the I'll separate it into two parts. The the well, the thing I'm probably most proud of overall is giving the platform to wrestlers who may never get that platform uh, one way or another. Whether it's just because they're not going to leave the local area, whether it's because of we'll say a skill level, or just let's face it, real life happens, or injuries happen, careers can be cut short, or some people are just happy, being a weekender. Like there's
Right.
nothing wrong with well, okay, there's something wrong with injuries, but like if it's your decision not to do things, that's fine. But I like being able to have those people tell their stories too, because like let's face it, like everyone dreams of being Chris Van Vliet, who basically can nab anybody he wants. But like for me, it's really cool to be able to nab your Augustus Stravens, who like have just such a great mind for the business, but just is just waiting for that opportunity for someone to give him that chance, or like find folks who are starting their careers that, like in my case, like I live across the river from the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. They are attached to SCW Pro, so a lot of SCW Pro are graduates of Seth Rollins's wrestling school, and so I'm seeing guys like nearly fresh out of school starting out their careers and being able to see, like, watch them go from trainees to wherever they may go. For the most part, like it is great. And if I can like give them like a little extra spotlight along the way to do it, and like I don't know, and even if I have to pat myself on the back, maybe later on saying like, yeah, I had this guy on before anybody cared about him, that's cool. But it's cool being able to like spotlight these people that are like coming on their way up, or just looking for that opportunity, and being able to give them at least like 1 week of a spotlight, hopefully more if you're back listening to the podcast and whatever, or through my occasional indie spotlight, which I don't do enough anymore, of being able just to spotlight just a random promotion that I just have to watch and be like, hey, let's talk about it. Like, I've never heard of whatever. Maybe you've never heard of Enjoy Wrestling either. So let's talk about their YouTube show they're on season 4 right now. Let's talk about episode 6 that I just happened to watch just out of nowhere because it sounded fun. If just to be able to get like more eyes on the product, like I does give me that warm feeling. But like especially building those relationships with the younger guys, it's immensely rewarding, and watching them go do cool things, or even just like rise up the ranks within like the local area. And then I would be remiss to not, I don't I do have a little bit of an ego, because obviously I'm important enough to have a microphone. But like, it's also really cool to have like some of these like I call them weird things, but like things like I don't expect, just because like, again, I am just an idiot with a microphone out in the Midwest. Like I don't wrestle. I'm not I'm not on TV or anything like, and then just like having things like pop up, or just like, or someone just like someone coming into my DMs because they enjoyed what I did, and that person may have some name value. Like I will throw out uh, shoot, Jeff Buchantz, slid into my DMs like this past year, within like the last handful of months, marked out so bloody hard. And for those of you at home who don't know who Jeff Buchantz is, he is best known in wrestling circles as the Mighty Maccabee. So if you got those Grandmasters of Wrestling dollar DVDs from Walmart, he was the main event. He put those shows together. Or most recently, last summer, they had Maccabee Mania 3, co-presented by Wrestling with Regret. Mighty Maccabee main evented against Crowbar on that. And Buchantz just slid into my DMs just one random day. He was just like, hey, I heard you talk about Maccabee Mania, and I want you to know that I appreciate you putting it out there. The show went great. We had 20,000 views on YouTube, and it was just great to know that fans out there are talking about it. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And I'm like, the Mighty Maccabee, a dollar DVD legend. That was really cool. Or also this year, like I got added. I was put on I'm put on lots of lists because of my mouth. But I got put on a fellow YouTuber that I didn't even know the show existed. But it turns out he's a wrestling commentator once I did my research, because he snitch tagged me in the video. But Confusion got listed as one of 8 wrestling YouTubers you should know. And
Wow.
it's a guy I never talked to. Like I after did my research, like I kind of aware that like, oh, I've actually listened to him do commentary before, but like I didn't know he had a video podcast or anything like that. He just snitch tagged me on social media as part of like he snitch tagged all the shows or the wrestling accounts of all the shows he listed in his top 8, and he's just like, yeah, you guys should watch these these YouTubers. And then he went through his 8, and then he come to Confusion like somehow, and just was like, yeah, this guy is giving back to the indies. His interviews are great. You should totally listen to the interviews. But actually, I like to get recommendations of what to watch wrestling wise, or see what's going on in the scene when when I'm driving. And so I actually I listened primarily to the episodes where he talks about an indie show he watched. And I'm like, it's freaking amazing. Someone cared enough to like dedicate, like 2 or 3 minutes to me in general. And then on top of it, like make it sound like, I'm doing good work. Like,
Right.
and again, it's not, not that I don't appreciate the platform you've given me, Bear.
No, I get it.
But on the other hand, like, we've been on good terms, for over a year now. We've been friends and colleagues for over a year. So like, on the platform things, like, yes, it's cool being in a Bear's thoughts, but just having like some rando who I've never interacted with before be like, you should listen to this, and then like put it on his platform was like freaking sweet. And like, so on the ego front, like things like that have very much like given me validation for what I'm doing. Because it very like in this field, it's very rare to really kind of see anything tangible come your way, because let's face it, we're not going to make much money doing this. Like,
Right.
like it's like professional wrestling. You're going to get a hot dog and a handshake, maybe if you're lucky, an envelope that has real money in it and not monopoly money. And so like, and that's probably how it's going to be for the duration of the podcast. I'm realistic about that, but to like tangibly like be able to say like, hey, have someone be like, I listened to the show, it was really good, or have that extra validation of like, this is a YouTuber, which I don't consider myself like a YouTube. Like, yes, thank you for putting the YouTube link up there, but like, it is definitely an audio podcast that just happens to be on YouTube.
Right.
So also get it at Spotify or wherever, but like just to have like that kind of validation of people that you aren't close with, give you that platform, or be like, hey, like it's like, this is really great, you should listen to it. And then by proxy, like again, pulling it back to like the local indie scene, just like to have those guys be like, I appreciate having this platform that you've given me. Like you were there from the beginning. And I did like have one of the local indies. She just won her first championship a couple months ago, and like she was busy, her family was there, so she was busy, and everybody and their mother was congratulating her. And I was one of the few last fans to leave, but like she still had folks, and I just been like, hey, don't want to interrupt. Congratulations, champ. And like she's just like, you were there from the beginning. And I'm like, that's right. And hopefully I'll be there to the end too. But it's cool having those things, kind of come your way. Because again, Lord knows I'm making about 2 cups of coffee a month doing this.
I definitely understand. When you have, like for me, when I had Ricky Morton telling these young guys, hey, you want to get out there, you want to make a name for yourself, you need to go on his YouTube. Go on his podcast. He's going to help you get over. There's eyes on this. He's really good. That's mind blowing. Like you said, we're a dime a dozen, but there are people out there that don't think that they really appreciate what we do and how we do it. When I go to the different indie shows, when just out the blue, somebody like, hey, you're Professor Burr, love your work. And it's like, you actually know me? You actually listen without somebody having a gun to your head? Wow. So that is an amazing feeling, and it helps keep me grounded and helps me continue when the days I don't feel like doing it, the days that I'm just not there, and I want to just phone it in, and I think, man, that person listens to me and I'm helping them. I hate to let them down. So get yourself together, do the best you can. And I've heard so many different things about wrestling. One of the things, how you get tunnel vision when you come out, I've heard of it. Never thought I would ever experience in my life. I got a chance to go to a indie show, and they actually wanted me to cut a promo and help build to a match. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. Now I get why wrestlers do it, why they just love it so much. And to have fans is still surreal to me. So I truly make sure anytime someone acknowledge me, I definitely acknowledge them, do whatever I can for them, and very thankful, because very easily it could be somebody else and not stand out to them. So I always appreciate that.
So you're just lucky because you do the video stuff. Like I don't have a lot of video, so I'm actually like quasi anonymous when I go places. Like I am a sponsor of SCW Pro. It's one of the reasons I do promote it, outside of it, being a great place for the youngins to get their reps in.
Right.
But because like the only time you see my face really, like outside of a couple of profile pictures, is when I appear on shows like this or doing Joe Monroe's Roundtable. For the most part, like this is a faceless podcast, and so like I will sit, I will go and sit, and then like maybe like if I say like someone overhears me talking or something, like they'll be like, oh, you're the confusion guy. Like maybe they hadn't actually listened to the podcast, but like they always hear like variations of like brought to you by sponsor the Confusion Wrestling Podcast, etc. And but there's no face put into it, because I don't do the video interviews terribly often. So I do think it's funny sometimes. Like it's not like I've caught anybody speaking bad about me, but it's like sometimes but sometimes getting that like, oh, you're that guy. Like, yeah, I'm that guy. Like, and I'll derail things with a story. So I wore this shirt to an SDW Pro show, where Manders, the one called Manders, for those who are not aware of his existence, was coming home. He is a graduate of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. I have been booing this man and riding this man to the ground for like 7 years now, since he was just a baby Hawkeye named Steve. But he comes home a couple times a year. And so I got me some sweet swag, this Manders Sucks Egg shirt, and wore it to the event. Manders and I, bickered at each other like we normally do, because he definitely knows who I am. He knows this face, because it's been booing him for 6 or 7 years. But the wrestling photographer had no clue who I was, and so like, but he saw the shirt and he's like, he saw a photo opportunity. So the light bulb went off in his head. So he and I'm talking this. I find out I'm talking as I'm talking to him, because I basically want to know, like, can I get a copy of the photo? Like, how's he? Do I have to sign anything because this is a special one-on-one or whatever? Like, I know this. Like various businesses have to have releases for stuff,
Right.
or in other places, just you show up. That's your permission to get recorded or whatever. But like evidently, so like as he was plotting to pull me. During intermission, he goes up to Merrick Brave, one of the co-owners of SCW Pro, and he's like, "Hey, you know that guy in the Manders shirt?" And Merrick's just like, yeah, this show wouldn't happen without him. He's one of our sponsors. Like, yeah, people just half know my voice at best. They don't know this ugly mug, which is probably for the best at the end of the day. But such it is. So like, yeah, the guy is like, yeah, the owner of the company had to be like, yeah, this guy's one of the reasons the show, like this event, is going on, because he has the most expensive seat in the house, wherever that seat may be. So yeah, then he yoinked me, and I had to get my picture taken with Manders, and then right after I took the WXW Unified Heavyweight Championship from him. So that picture's floating around on the interwebs.
If this is the last question, if you would give advice to anyone that is starting or wants to start a podcast, what is that advice you would give them?
It'll be a two-part answer, because I think both can be equally important. One, do it and be consistent. The first step, like as simple and stupid as it sounds, doing it like is the hardest part of doing something. Like, it's so easy to say I'm going to do this, or I would do this if, like, a lot of things in life are not that hard once you just decide to put one foot in front of the other and do it. Like, I will use my story, again, not that I'm, a super successful podcaster, but con has been going on for nearly 7 years now in various formats. And when I first started this thing, I was recording on my phone. I was recording on my phone and then editing it with Audacity, which is a free audio editing software. And that, like, that's like, I didn't have a microphone. For being a neckbeard with a microphone, I didn't even actually have a real microphone. But like, I did it. Like, I just said, like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take those steps to do it. And sometimes the hardest thing is just starting to get that momentum to actually do something. So if you want to do it, whether it's podcasting, being a professional wrestler, I don't know, going back to school, like whatever it is you want to do, unless there's like a strict physical or monetary barrier stopping you from doing it, just go ahead and do it. Just throw out caution and do it, because that that first step is going to be the hardest one, and getting out of your own mind to do it will be the next hardest part, because you're going to suck when you start. Like, not everybody's a wildfire ball of charisma, or the most athletic person in the world, or the best at whatever it is they happen to be doing. A lot of times that takes the work, and that work starts small. The second part of it, which I don't feel is quite as inspirational, is be a professional about it. Being professional doesn't necessarily mean be formal. Being professional basically is a variation of do what you're going to say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, and do what you can to make the experience easy and fun the best it can be, depending on your field. It can be for all parties involved. Like, I joke that I make the joke in my process of doing things, when I pull back the curtain and reach out to folks, that the most professional part of my podcast is the email. But like, let's be realistic. Like, so many people are just like so informal, or just like assume rando things. Like, having someone take the time to explain something, it is a level of professionalism that people don't always get. So like, so like I try to set an expectation, and I like outside of my super professional email, where I basically list out references, and whatnot, where I get made fun of. And actually, August Artois literally gave me a response of too long, didn't read. I skimmed it. I'll do the podcast, which I've been doing this for a long time. And I've had a lot of people, like Pretty Boy Smooth was actually like, thank you for the email. Such a level of professionalism is lacking in journalism nowadays. I'm like, oh, you sweet child. I shouldn't call him sweet child. He's close to my age, but but like, you don't know what you're getting into. But again, like, if I say like, cool, I will put you in the calendar for such and such, like, I'll be chill about stuff. I'm going to do it. I do it. Like, I do, I like, in my case, like, I set the expectation. Like, I will flat out say, like, when you come on the con, we're going to be as conversational as we possibly can. The topics, I have questions, but ultimately our conversation will dictate what we talk about. If there's anything you don't want to tell me, or you don't want to talk about, tell me. I won't touch it. And then, since we don't go live, I also go like, hey, if I accidentally poke a button that you didn't realize you had, let me know. We'll cut it. Because I want this to be painless for all of us. I just want you're donating your time to me. I want to make it as painless as I can for you. Like, I want the worst part of the process to be listening to me talk for way too long, because I just go off on my little tangents trying to explain everything. But again, like, being professional ultimately boils down to, setting the expectations, and taking the time to set those expectations too. But setting expectations and then following through on it, because at the end of the day, even if you think the interview went well, a lot of us podcasters aren't offering that much to that individual as a whole. Like, yes, the publicity is great, but we're not necessarily, we're not necessarily more popular than the people we're bringing on. So like, we probably gain more by having them on than them coming on. But but like, at least you can do in the process is be chill about it, because when they do network, and when they complain about podcasters or fans or whatever, like, they will list those complaints, and and if you suck enough, even if the interview went great on paper, like, if you made it difficult for them or they had to jump through hoops, they're going to talk about you, and possibly in the big picture that that might keep you from growing. Because Lord knows, like, I talk about my guests, good and bad,
Right.
to my peers. Like, oh, before I came on, we discussed a couple scenarios. Like, I speak to CZ, a couple times a week, and like, so sometimes it's just regular friend stuff, but sometimes we're like, dude, this I'm working on so and so right now, and they are so sweet, like, it's freaking awesome to do with, or like, or vice versa. I'm just like, oh, this person's like pulling teeth, or like, or if you happen to contact them, their communications are brief and kind of cold, but once you get them face to face, they're wonderful. But people talk, and you want to make sure that that if nothing else, that you have the reputation of being professional and giving the people a good experience when they're working with you, assuming you're having guests, of course. But you also have to be professional with sponsors, if you're trying to get sponsors, or whatever else you're trying to do to make the podcast grow.
Yes, definitely. I would like to thank you for taking the time to do my show. It is something, a part of my thoughts when I decided to do this was to spotlight other podcasters and to let people know that podcasters actually can work together, that we watch each other's stuff, that is just a good, for everything you hear negative, there are so many good aspects of it too. I'm a big believer in giving people their flowers when they can celebrate it. I guess too, because seeing a lot of people pass away and not getting to tell them really what was on my mind has made me a little different now, where I try to let people know how I feel about them and be truthful. And again, you gave me a chance when you didn't have to, and it helped make me who I am today. And I'm very grateful for that. And I wanted to give back that same amount of respect and love, and definitely let you know that you're very big in the space that we're doing this in. Maybe a lot of people don't know you, but your space is bigger than you think, and that you deserve that thank you and love. And a lot of times people don't hear it, and I wanted you to hear it and give you your flowers. So again, thank you so much for what you do and for what you continuously will do. I appreciate it. Your fans appreciate it. And we want to give you your flowers.
I very much appreciate this, Bear, and I appreciate the platform that you've given. And I just, I'd be remiss if I didn't put you over in the hard work you've been doing for the Wrestling Society Network, because it has come so far. And it's been about a year and a half since you came on Confusion, and like you really didn't have much presence, like say on YouTube. You didn't have like really didn't have much in the line of the Facebook pages. Like it was there because that's partially how I vetted you, but
Right.
like for the most part, when you came on, like you were just kind of a hub of links for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's really great seeing, especially it's really great seeing it become like a full-on network and more than just a name where you're working like with the wrestling companies, but again, like you're also very much a network of podcasters, whether it is your Samp and Chance, the Car Subject to Change just made it your way, Joe Monroe, and whatever form of the Joe Monroe show takes in a given week, and all the ones I'm forgetting, Wrestling from the 313, and like Lord knows I don't remember everybody who's also getting a platform that wasn't getting that platform 18 months ago, and just seeing where it's come has just been really cool to see.
I appreciate that. And that's the thing for me, is just grow. It's funny, and I laugh so much now because when we originally started this, I was like, hey, talking to Brady, who's the other co-CEO of the company, he's the founder. We were talking about it, and I was like, man, we need to get our name out there. We got to start trying to do podcasts and interviews and stuff. And he's like, okay, well, I'll let you handle it. And I'm like, I don't want to go out there. I don't want to do this. Because see, I don't want to be considered the face of the company. I don't want that. And and after we talked, it's like, okay, I'll do it. And now where I see us now, it's like, damn it, a lot of people consider me the face.
Like I said, people don't even know Brady exists.
But if I have to take that and do that and continue to help elevate WSN, I would do it with pride, and that's something else. If you consider me a bad podcast, I'm okay with that. If you don't like my podcast, I'm okay with that. But I'd rather you take shots at me than the company, because the company is so much bigger than just me, and we work hard to make it where people enjoy our content. This year is going to be bigger. We trying to be a brand that no matter where you are in the world and you talk wrestling, we want to be a part of that conversation. That's our goal, and we've been working hard to get there. So,
and I mean, if you've been paying attention for the long run, I mean, and we're seeing it. I mean, again, there wasn't a podcast. There wasn't a Bears Thoughts even before. It was just you reaching out to quasi randos, being like, "Hey, this is me. I'm part of the Wrestling Society Network. We're trying to get our name out there. This is what here. This is what we're doing. It'd be great if I could have a word." And now heck, now we're coming full circle, and you're bringing us OGs back, and plus getting to hang out with Ricky Morton, and in your case, you're a Hall of Famer now, and just like it's crazy, go nuts, man. Life's crazy.
Yeah, it's like I'll definitely say, it's all in God's plans, and I'm thankful and will continue going down the path He sees fit for me. So, thank you again so much.
Thank you for having me on it. It's been great being able to cut the rug and just chit chat.
Oh yeah, guys, girls, thank you so much for joining us around the campfire to have another amazing, great interview. Again, this has been much more than I anticipated. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and the people that have came on that know how special they are, I can't thank them enough. And for the people who hadn't been able to come on, no hate, no heat. I thank y'all for even taking the time to hear what I was hoping to do, and hopefully we can get you on later down the line. Before we go, I do want to say what I always say. Please, please, please support your local indie wrestling. You will be amazed at some of the people you can see now, and down the line, they could be in a bigger company as their world champion. You just never know. Plus, I feel like you get such an amazing thing with going to indies. It's more personal. You get the chance to actually talk to the wrestlers. It's more of a family atmosphere at most of them. So again, I'm not saying they're better, not saying they're worse, but there definitely is a different feel that to me makes wrestling so much better. So with that being said, I am Professor Bear. This has been a Bear's Thought, and we will see you around the campfire next time. Y'all take care.